Hi, it's Danielle. Welcome to my perfume journal where I document my love of perfume. Well, I went down another rabbit hole recently where I started looking at the most prevalent and the least prevalent notes in my perfume collection. But more interesting to me were the unusual notes that appeared on this list. So I thought I would make a video about that, the unusual notes that appear in my perfume collection. So here we go. Okay, starting out is the note of neoprene. So, neoprene is a fabric. I think probably the most common use of neoprene that I could think of is in beverage can koozies. So, if you have ever had a neoprene item, you might know that it does emit a very chemically, kind of like salty, rubbery kind of scent. And so, as I was like reading up on neoprene, I learned that neoprene is a foundation for white florals, for citrus scents, and for green accords. And it has actually been used frequently in the fragrance house Courrèges. And of course, the perfume in my collection that features a neoprene note is this one. It's La Fille de l'Air from Courrèges. Now, if I am being totally honest, I think this is a gimmicky note. Neoprene is to Courrèges as leather is to Hermes. Courrèges actually makes a lot of items out of neoprene, which is great. I've owned a few neoprene dresses in the past, and they're very soft, they're very pliable, they're very comfortable. But to say that a perfume has a neoprene note is a bit of a stretch, and I think it's just like Courreges' way of sneaking their signature fabric into their perfume line. However, if we go with what my research found, and we go with the idea that neoprene is a nice foundation for white florals, for citruses, and for green accords, then I guess we can say that the neoprene definitely complements this perfume. This is an airy orange blossom. It's got neroli, petitgrain, the whole orange tree in full bloom on a breezy day. And I guess we can place that orange tree on the coast somewhere with like a neoprene salty breeze blowing in the background. Okay, so next up is the note of Reunion Rum in Myrica Muse by Miller Harris. So this is what I find so interesting about niche perfumes. Like, it's not enough to have just a rum note, it has to be reunion rum. And interestingly, I actually have two perfumes in my collection that reference the island of Reunion, the Isle of Reunion. This one, and also Bois Farine from L'Artisan Parfumeur, which is based on a blossom from a tree that grows on the Isle of Reunion that smells like finely milled flour. Okay, so based on what I read, Reunion rum includes notes of orange, of butterscotch, cinnamon, clove, licorice, vanilla, stewed fruits, and that profile totally tracks with this perfume. This is essentially a fruituli, and the fruits in this perfume almost smell fermented like rum, thick and rich and syrupy and compote like, with strawberry as the hero fruit and rose as the hero floral here. Now, normally I'm not super drawn to fruitulis or boozy notes, but to me there is something so attractive about this one. It is sweet and ambery and vanillic and rosy, and when you wear it, it just kind of melts into your skin. It's a strong one, a spray or two will do ya, and based on the descriptions of Reunion rum that I found, I think it's safe to say that a sip or two will do you with that one as well. Okay, so next up is a brand note, and that is in Mélilot from L'Occitane. And I don't know about you, but if I can smell like cereal, I am totally down for that. I love a carby note in a perfume. So in Mélilot, the carby, weedy brand note is complemented by hazelnut and carrot, and then it is also offset by a sweet clover and hay note. So it really does come off smelling like a field. Mélilot means clover, but instead of going like full on green meadow in this one, L'Occitane has added some interest to the composition with this like nutty, carby earthiness. So I like how this turns a gourmand perfume on its side. It's not a fleurmand, it's more of like an earthmand or a green mond. I don't know, I'm just creating whole new categories of perfume here. But Mélilot is beautifully unusual in so many ways. So that's okay. So now we're getting into unusual aroma chemicals. So this is Sacrese from Laboratorio Olfattivo, and it features the note of hydrocarboresine. So I have learned that hydrocarboresine is a material that has a rich and smoky incense aroma. It is resinous, leathery, and has a quality similar to labdanum or labdanum, depending on how you pronounce it. It is similar to the scent of like burning wood or Catholic Church incense, and it also has dark chocolate undertones to it. And so I have described this perfume, Sacreste, as a Catholic church in a pine forest. There is like a juxtaposition of the coolness of a pine tree and stone and the warmth of a smoky, resinous incense. This is not like a mystical incense, but it does venture away from like your typical smoky incense because it does have those cold green qualities to it. And that is what makes this perfume so interesting to me. Now, I don't get the dark chocolate undertones that I read about in this material or in this perfume, but I suppose if you took out the cypriol note that's in this, it might come out a bit more chocolatey and make this perfume feel like rounder and warmer. Laboratorio Olfattivo Sacreste, the unusual note of hydrocarboresine. Okay, so the unusual note in Panettone from Milano Fragranze is Vinylguaiacol. So this was interesting to read because when I think about the term Vinylguaiacol, it immediately conjures guaiac wood to mind, and that instantly makes me want to recoil. When I see guaiac wood, amber wood, or akagala wood on a note list, I automatically think I am not going to like that perfume. But I learned that vinyl guaiacol has nothing to do with the guaiac wood scent. This is instead a molecule that smells very clove-like, which totally tracks for Panettone. And vinyl guaiacol is also a material that is apparently very long lasting, which also tracks for this perfume because it lasts a lifetime when you wear it. So Panettone is a sweet Italian bread that comes out in droves at Christmas time. It is lightly spiced and dotted with candied oranges. To me, the quality that really comes out most in the composition, most likely from this material, is the spicy cloviness. Okay, so next we have a perfume with two unusual notes, smoke bush and an air accord. So both of these notes are found in the super affordable celebrity scent Solstice Bloom by Jennifer Aniston. So smoke bush is related to the sumac, and the scent of the leaves are supposed to smell similar to like a radish, peppery and crisp and a little bit herbal. So the scent of this perfume overall reminds me a lot of warm sand, but if we dig deeper into it, is very much what smells to me like a New England beach vibe. This is not like a day at the beach. It's not sunscreen and waves and hot sun. This is more of like the idea of whitewashed cottages, dry brush and shrubs with like big white blooms that frame the wooden walkways that go down to the beach. It smells like walking barefoot in the warm sand in the late afternoon. It smells like linen and cotton and picking up shells and a very light salt breeze. That's where the air accord comes in. So you can pick up a little bit of that radishy shrubbiness in the opening. It's kind of crisp and a little bit watery, and then it just gets picked up by the air and carried out to sea. So next up is the note of tamarind in Michael from Michael Kors. So I think it was a stroke of genius to put a tamarind note in a tuberose perfume. Tamarind is a tropical fruit. It grows in a huge pod. It's sweet and tangy and pulpy, and I think it pairs beautifully with a big bubblegummy tuberose. So Michael is this huge perfume. It's centered around that tuberose note, and it has the tamarind, it has some peachy osmanthus, and a very lightly woody, musky base. It is unlike any other tuberose perfume I have ever smelled. It's these like big, fat, fleshy petals with that unusual tangy fruitiness surrounding those florals. This perfume doesn't smell like tropical summery at all. Like it feels way more appropriate for cold weather than for spring or summer, but There is like a definitive tropical feel to it, like a wintry tropicalness, if there is such a thing. This is a perfume that has to be sprayed lightly. However, if you get the body mist of 1 in a Million from Bath and Body Works, that to me is a very lightened up version of Michael, and that can be sprayed to your heart's content for about $5 during a semi-annual sale. But when it comes to unusual, unique tuberose perfumes, there is nothing like Michael from Michael Kors with the unusual note of tamarind. Okay, so when I think about floral perfumes, I go straight to like iris, rose, violet, tuberose, orange blossom. But here in Incarnata from Anatole Lebreton, there is the unusual floral note of rhododendron. So Incarnata is essentially a waxy, lipsticky scent that dries down to smell exactly to me like big red cinnamon gum. And when I think about lipstick, I think about rose and violet primarily, together with iris or orris to give that like classic old school waxiness to the composition. And all of that is here in this perfume. But when I read up on what rhododendrons smell like in perfume, the words sweet, herbal, and fruity came up. So in this perfume, the rhododendron note is in the top of the pyramid along with raspberry. So if I'm thinking about a nice fruit and floral pairing that an interesting independent perfume house might come up with, rhododendron and raspberry is a good one. Raspberry goes really beautifully with lipsticky floral, so why not rhododendron too? Now, can I say that I smell rhododendron per se in this perfume on its own? No, I totally cannot, but I can get down with the idea that it adds something interesting to the composition that I wouldn't necessarily be able to pick out or name in a blind sniff, but I'm happy it's there because this perfume on the whole is fantastic. Okay, so our next unusual note is Moth Orchid in Stella from Tocca. So when it comes to orchids, I am fairly certain that every orchid note in perfumery is actually a fantasy note. And there are many flowers that are like impossible to extract the scent from, and to my knowledge, orchids are one of them. But in nature, a moth orchid is supposed to be like a delicate floral that has hints of vanilla and citrus. And to me, that is absolutely the perfect floral for Stella from Tocca. The star note for me in this watery floral is the blood orange. It's sweet and it's citrusy, and so a moth orchid fantasy note is absolutely perfect to go with blood orange because of the vanilla and the citrusy hints. Now, this perfume does not smell like a creamsicle, but in my mind, I like to imagine that a moth orchid is the creamsicle of the botanical world. And to me, that again is perfect for this perfume. Stella is light and sweet and airy and watery and very much like a soft watercolor painting, like so many of Tocca's other fragrances. So next is the note of ume blossom or plum blossom in Nightingale from Zoologist. And this was crafted by the wonderful perfumer Tomu Inaba. Now, normally when I think about floral chypres, I think of heavy, heavy florals on a thick, mossy base. But in Nightingale, what we have is the classic chypre profile crafted in a softer and slightly more modern way, but it still pays homage to like that vintagey chypre style. Ume blossoms smell sweet and fresh. They have notes of honey and of course plum. And the ume blossom here is paired with a like lipsticky rose violet that gives a bit of what smells to me like underripe plums in the heart of the composition. And that's what really appealed to me about this scent when I first tried it. It like harkens back to the perfumes of days gone by that I totally love, but it puts like a new twist on it. Okay, so next up is the unusual note of the Norma Jean Rose in White Roses and Lemon Leaves from Joe Loves. And this is a gel perfume that you actually paint on. So there's nothing really unusual about white roses, except in this perfume, Jo Malone uses this very specific white rose, the Norma Jean Rose, as a symbol of resilience and the grit of the British spirit. And I think that that is perfect. This rose is like simultaneously gentle and thorny. And in this composition, Jo Malone uses a classic blend of lemon, geranium, muguet, violet, along with a little tiny bit of a spicy clove note to enhance the like punchiness that comes from the soft, delicate petals of that Norma Jean rose. And I have never seen this rose used specifically in a composition before, but I love that it was so carefully chosen by Jo Malone for this particular perfume. So that's the White Norma Jean Rose in White Roses and Lemon Leaves from Jo Loves. Okay, so the last perfume in this video combines a whole bunch of unusual notes to create something incredibly fun, playful, but also totally wearable and great smelling. It is Vacation by Vacation Incorporated and Arquiste, and the nose behind this is the great Rodrigo Flores Rue. So this perfume has notes of pool water, it has notes of swimsuit fabric, and combined with banana, pineapple, coconut, and solar musky notes, this is like an 80s summer in a bottle. This is a striped Jansen bathing suit. It is Prince blaring out of the boombox. It is Hawaiian tropics slathered everywhere, and the rippling blue waters of a fully chlorinated pool. You can feel the plastic sun chair sticking to the backs of your legs as you go to jump in the water to cool off, leaving that like oily film all over the surface of the pool. You get the feeling of a few sprays of sun in your hair. And with this perfume, you've got yourself a perfect 1980s summer afternoon. Okay, so this was another super fun video to make. I hope you enjoyed it. So I would love to know what are some of the uncommon smells or uncommon notes that are lurking in your perfume collection. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending your time here with me, and thank you for chatting perfumes with me in the comments. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.